that is exactly the message I'm trying to get across, right? It all really comes back to, the individual and where they're at in terms of their stress load, especially when it comes to women and training. Because we know that women have a little bit more sensitive hormones compared to men, and sometimes taking out carbohydrates can actually be bad at certain points in their life or whatever. And when I say bad, I mean maybe not optimal, right? And so that's the biggest thing here with this study. It was really just like, going into the study, I personally had no idea what to expect. It was just kind of something that I wanted to research. I wanted to really just see what would happen. And the results of the study, like I said, they were on average. So it's not like every single person dropped a significant amount of body fat, but on average, the participants in the keto group did. I also like to preface that the ketogenic diet that those participants were on was not a standard keto diet, right? It wasn't a strict keto diet that is really formulated for those who are suffering from maybe a medical issue, right? So that's very high fat, maybe low, moderate protein, very low carb. Going into the study, I literally just told them, I said, hey, reduce your carbohydrates to 50 grams or total, less than 50 grams of total carbohydrates, and eat ad libitum, right? So eat till you're satisfied. Really didn't tell them to have a particular macronutrient distribution between their carbs and protein, their fat and protein. And by the end of the study, we looked at all of their nutrition data. We, had them recording their foods 3 days out of every 2 weeks of the study. And then we put all that information into a big database. And basically what spit out was that both of the groups actually averaged around the same amount of protein, right? And the keto group had a reduction in calories, right? So we know that keto, one of the benefits of a ketogenic diet is the appetite suppression. So they were told to eat ad libitum, but they had spontaneous reduction in calories, which allowed them to go into that deficit to lose that body fat. But their protein was equated. So their protein was moderate to high. And then the only thing that was different between the two groups was their carbs and their fat. So those are basically opposites, right? And so that's something that I like to make sure that we kind of highlight too, is that, if you are an average person looking to implement a ketogenic diet, going with the standard, really strict, high fat, very low carb, low protein is probably not going to be the best approach. The biggest thing there is that a lot of people, and I think a lot of the clients that I work with too, and I was in this camp too, we think that our workouts burn a lot more calories than they typically do. Obviously it depends on the person, depends on how elite you are, how much you're working out during the day, all of that. But a lot of people are kind of, looking at their Apple Watch and seeing a certain quote unquote calorie burn, or from their phone or whatever it is. And typically that's very inaccurate. And when the goal is to lose body fat, even if you do, burn a certain amount of calories during your workout, we don't want to be eating those calories back if the goal is to be in a deficit, right? So I think that that's just kind of one of the biggest misconceptions of workouts and just, going in and training, is that you are burning a lot less calories than you might think you are, for most people, for your average person. And then the other side of things is really the cardio aspect, and using cardio as a tool for fat loss. It can be good in some regards, and it can be very deceiving in other regards, and it's really figuring out how to find that happy medium there with your quote unquote cardio side of things, because especially if we're talking about CrossFit and we're talking about fat loss as the goal, this goes back to stress, right? It goes back to how much are you stressing your body, right? If you're putting yourself into a calorie deficit, that's already a stress on your body, right? So that's kind of one knock against you, right? If you're consistently under recovering, right? If you're not letting your body recover from the previous workout, that's another stress, right? If you are, like you said, if you're maybe if you're a busy mom and you're not sleeping, you don't have any stress management techniques in place, there's all these different stressors, and then eventually you're just gonna have I call it the stress bucket, right? We only have one stress kind of bucket, right? There's nothing, exercise can be a good stress, but too much of it can be obviously a bad stress, right? And so there's not the stressors from exercise, the stressors from the food that you're consuming, the stressors from your work, your job, your kids, whatever it is, they all go to the same place. And if you kind of overshoot that, right, if you overflow that bucket, then you're just putting yourself in a position that you're just not going to get the results that you want to get. And so I think it all comes back to just thinking about the individual, thinking about their goals, their stress levels, where they're at in their journey. You know, all of that is going to play a role in how they get the results that they're looking for.